It was an ordinary day on Earth, just like any other. People went about their lives without giving much thought to what might be happening beyond the clouds above them. In cities, cars honked impatiently in traffic jams, while pedestrians hurried across crosswalks with their heads down, glued to their phones. In small towns, children played outside, laughing and shouting as they chased each other through parks. Farmers worked in fields under the bright sun, planting seeds for crops that would grow into food for millions. Life seemed perfectly normal, almost boring. But high above the planet, invisible to human eyes, something extraordinary was unfolding. A fleet of sleek metallic ships hovered silently in orbit around Earth. These weren't human-made machines. They belonged to a race called the Zarnoks, aliens who had traveled countless light-years across the galaxy to study this tiny blue world. To them, Earth appeared primitive, a chaotic mess of scattered nations, outdated technology, and endless conflicts. They saw no signs of a unified defense system or advanced weaponry capable of challenging their empire. From their perspective, humanity was weak, disorganized, and ripe for conquest. Commander Vexthar stood at the center of his ship's control room, his six-limbed body clicking softly as he moved. His large, multifaceted eyes scanned the holographic display floating before him, showing detailed scans of Earth's surface. "This species is insignificant," he declared to his crew, his voice deep and resonant, vibrating through the air, like a low hum. "Their weapons are crude, their communication systems laughable. We can take this planet with ease." The Zarnok crew nodded in agreement, their insect-like bodies twitching slightly in anticipation. For centuries, their empire had expanded across the stars, conquering weaker civilizations and stripping their planets of resources. Earth would be no different, or so they thought. As Commander Vexthar prepared to send a report back to his superiors, something unusual caught his attention. The sensors aboard his flagship detected strange signals emanating from deep space, not from Earth itself, but passing close to its solar system. At first, he dismissed it as cosmic interference, perhaps radiation from a distant star, but then the readings became clearer, and what they revealed left him stunned. Massive objects were approaching Earth at incredible speeds. Each one was far larger than any Zarnok vessel, dwarfing even their largest battleships. The shapes were unmistakable. Long triangular hulls bristling with weapons turrets and glowing energy conduits. These were star destroyers, ships designed not just for combat, but for domination. And there were dozens of them. Vexthar's mandibles clicked nervously as he ordered his crew to magnify the image on the display. When the picture sharpened, his heart, or whatever passed for a heart in his species, skipped a beat. The ships didn't look like anything the Zarnoks had encountered before. Their design was both elegant and terrifying, with smooth surfaces that shimmered like liquid metal and jagged edges that pulsed faintly with light. It was clear these vessels belonged to an ancient and powerful civilization, one that could easily crush the Zarnok Empire if provoked. "What? What is this?" stammered one of the crew members, breaking the tense silence. "I don't know," Vexthar admitted, his voice trembling ever so slightly, "but we need to find out." Back on Earth, life continued as usual. No one noticed the alien fleet hovering above them, nor did they sense the impending arrival of the mysterious star destroyers. That is, until the skies began to change. At first, it was subtle. Clouds shifted unnaturally, swirling together in patterns that defied logic. Then came the shimmering, a faint, almost imperceptible glow that spread across the heavens like ripples on water. Birds stopped chirping and animals grew restless, sensing something unnatural in the air. By the time humans finally looked up, the sky had transformed completely. In cities around the globe, people froze mid-step, their jaws dropping as enormous structures descended into view. The star destroyers loomed overhead, casting shadows over entire continents. Some panicked, running for cover or screaming in fear. Others simply stared, too awestruck to move. Social media exploded with videos and photos of the spectacle, accompanied by wild theories ranging from government experiments to divine intervention. Dr. Elena Cruz, a young astrophysicist working at a research facility in New York City, was among those who witnessed the event firsthand. She had been analyzing data from a recent satellite launch when her assistant burst into the lab, breathless and wide-eyed. "You've got to see this," he exclaimed, pointing toward the window. Elena crushed over, her glasses slipping down her nose as she gazed upward. Her initial shock quickly gave way to fascination. As a scientist, she knew better than to jump to conclusions, but the sheer scale of the ships suggested something far beyond human capability. Without wasting another moment, she grabbed her laptop and began downloading telemetry data from nearby observatories. Hours later, after sifting through mountains of information, Elena made a startling discovery. Hidden within the electromagnetic signals emitted by the Star Destroyers was a message, a fragmented transmission encoded in binary code. With the help of her team, she managed to decipher part of it. The words sent chills down her spine. "Earth is under our protection. Do not interfere." Elena realized immediately that these ships weren't here to harm humanity. Instead, they had arrived to defend it, from the very same alien fleet now paralyzed with fear above the atmosphere. Somehow, Earth had been shielded all along by an advanced civilization, watching silently from the shadows until the moment intervention became necessary. As news of her findings spread, Elena found herself thrust into the spotlight. Reporters bombarded her with questions. Governments sought her expertise, and ordinary citizens looked to her for answers. Despite the pressure, she remained calm and focused. If anyone could bridge the gap between humanity and these enigmatic guardians, it was her. Meanwhile, aboard the Zarnok flagship, chaos reigned. Commander Vexthar paced back and forth, his mind racing. He had always believed his people were superior, destined to rule the galaxy. But now, faced with overwhelming evidence of their insignificance, doubt crept into his thoughts. How could they have missed this? Why hadn't their intelligence reports warned them about the Sentinels, the name given to the mysterious protectors of weaker species? His second-in-command approached cautiously. "What do we do now, Commander?" Vexthar paused, his gaze fixed on the massive ships filling the viewport. For the first time in his life, he felt truly afraid. "We wait," he said grimly, "and pray they don't decide to obliterate us where we stand." Little did he know the Sentinels had already decided. Their arrival wasn't just a warning, it was a declaration. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and soon, everyone would understand the true meaning of power. As night fell across Earth, the Star Destroyers remained motionless in the sky, their presence a silent promise of protection. Below them, billions of humans gazed upward, filled with wonder, fear, and hope. The age of isolation was over. A new chapter in Earth's history had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, the world woke up to a reality that no one could have imagined. The Star Destroyers still hung in the sky like colossal sentinels, their shadows stretching across cities and countryside alike. People gathered in streets, parks, and rooftops, staring upward with a mix of awe and apprehension. Social media buzzed with theories, photos, and videos, each more dramatic than the last. Some claimed it was an elaborate hoax, while others believed humanity was witnessing the end times. But for most, there was only one question on everyone's mind. Who are they? And why are they here? Dr. Elena Cruz had barely slept. Her lab was now a hive of activity, filled with colleagues poring over data, running simulations, and debating what the arrival of these ships might mean. Despite her exhaustion, Elena couldn't help but feel exhilarated. This was the moment she had dreamed of since childhood, the chance to make contact with beings from another world. She knew the stakes were high, but she also understood that this could be Earth's greatest opportunity, or its gravest threat. By midday, governments around the globe began issuing statements urging calm. Leaders held press conferences, assuring citizens that experts were working tirelessly to understand the situation. Military forces were placed on standby, though no hostile actions had been detected. Scientists scrambled to analyze every scrap of information about the Star Destroyers, while religious leaders offered prayers for peace and guidance. It was as if the entire planet had collectively taken a deep breath, holding it in anticipation of what might come next. Then, just after noon, something extraordinary happened. The largest of the Star Destroyers, a behemoth so massive it seemed to blot out the sun, began emitting a low-frequency hum. At first it was barely audible, almost like the distant rumble of thunder, but within seconds the sound grew louder, resonating through the air and vibrating in people's chests. Birds took flight en masse, dogs howled, and even cars' alarms started blaring as the noise reached a crescendo. Suddenly the ship's surface shimmered, and a beam of light shot downward, piercing the atmosphere. It landed in the middle of Central Park in New York City, creating a spectacle visible for miles. Thousands of people flocked to the scene, their phones recording every second. The light coalesced into a glowing platform, upon which stood several figures. They were tall and humanoid, with sleek silver armor that reflected the sunlight like mirrors. Their faces were obscured by translucent visors, but their presence radiated authority and purpose. Elena watched the live broadcast from her lab, her heart pounding. These were the Sentinels, the protectors mentioned in the fragmented message. She had decoded. She immediately recognized their role, guardians of weaker species, tasked with defending them against threats like the Zarnoks. But what would they do now? Would they speak directly to humanity, or would they simply leave after making their point? As if reading her thoughts, one of the figures stepped forward. Its voice boomed across the park, and somehow, everywhere else on Earth, as if transmitted directly into people's minds. "We are the Sentinels," it announced, the words clear and commanding despite the lack of visible speakers. "For millennia, we have safeguarded civilizations across the galaxy. Your planet has been under our watchful eye, shielded from those who seek to exploit or harm you." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. The figure continued, its tone unwavering. "Today we reveal ourselves because your protection can no longer remain hidden. A threat approaches, one that requires your cooperation and resilience. Together, we will ensure Earth's survival." Before anyone could process the enormity of the announcement, the Sentinels vanished as quickly as they had appeared, leaving behind only silence. For a moment, the park was eerily quiet, as though the world itself was holding its breath. Then, the murmurs began. People turned to one another, wide-eyed and overwhelmed. Was this real? Had they truly just met extraterrestrial beings? Back at her lab, Elena felt a surge of determination. If the Sentinels wanted humanity to cooperate, then someone needed to step up and help bridge the gap between humans and these cosmic guardians. She grabbed her laptop and began drafting a proposal for a global task force dedicated to understanding and collaborating with the Sentinels. Little did she know, her name was already being whispered in corridors of power worldwide. Across the ocean, Commander Vexthar and his crew aboard the Zarnok flagship were reeling from the encounter. The Sentinels' appearance confirmed their worst fears. Earth wasn't defenseless, it was protected by one of the most feared civilizations in the galaxy. Vexthar clenched his mandibles in frustration, replaying the Sentinels' words in his mind. Your planet has been under our watchful eye. How long had they known about the Zarnok Empire's plans? Did they monitor every move the fleet made? His second-in-command, a nervous subordinate named Krelzen, approached cautiously. What do we do now, Commander? He asked, his voice trembling. If the Sentinels discover our intentions... They already know, Vexthar interrupted, sharply. That's why they're here. Our mission is compromised. He paced back and forth, his 6 limbs clicking softly against the metal floor. But we cannot retreat, not yet. We must find a way to salvage this operation. Perhaps if we convince the Sentinels that Earth poses a threat to galactic stability. Krelzen hesitated. Do you really think they'll believe us? Vexthar stopped pacing and fixed his subordinate with a cold glare. It doesn't matter what they believe. What matters is that we survive. Prepare a transmission, we'll claim ignorance of Earth's protection status and offer to assist in maintaining order. Though skeptical, Krelzen nodded and scurried. off to carry out the order. Vexithar sighed heavily, his mind racing. The Zarnak Empire prided itself on its dominance, but now, faced with the Sentinels' overwhelming power, he realized how fragile their supremacy truly was. He vowed silently to find a way to turn this situation to their advantage, even if it meant playing a dangerous game of deception. Meanwhile, on Earth, reactions to the Sentinels' appearance varied wildly. In some parts of the world, celebrations erupted as people embraced the idea of having powerful allies in the stars. Fireworks lit up night skies, and impromptu festivals sprang up in cities and villages alike. Others, however, viewed the event with suspicion. Conspiracy theories flourished, with some claiming the Sentinels were invaders in disguise waiting for the right moment to strike. Religious groups interpreted the visitation as a sign of divine intervention, while skeptics argued it was all an elaborate hoax orchestrated by governments or tech billionaires. Amidst the chaos, Dr. Elena Cruz found herself thrust into the spotlight. News outlets clamored for interviews, politicians sought her advice, and ordinary citizens looked to her for reassurance. Despite the pressure, she remained focused on her work. Late into the night, she collaborated with international teams of BAOs, scientists, pooling resources and knowledge to better understand the Sentinels' technology and motives. Her efforts earned her both praise and criticism, but she didn't let it distract her. She knew time was of the essence. One evening, as she reviewed satellite images of the star destroyers, her assistant burst into the lab looking pale and shaken. "Dr. Cruz," he stammered, holding out his phone. "You need to see this." Elena glanced at the screen and froze. The image showed a smaller vessel detaching from one of the star destroyers and descending toward Earth. Unlike the earlier display in Central Park, this craft appeared to be heading somewhere remote, a desolate stretch of desert in northern Africa. Before she could react, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Dr. Cruz," said a voice on the other end, calm but urgent. "This is Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Kane of the United Nations Space Command. We've identified the landing site of the Sentinel vessel. You're needed immediately." Elena's pulse quickened. "What do you want me to do?" "We're assembling a team to establish first contact," Kane replied. "Given your expertise, you're our best chance of communicating effectively. Are you in?" Without hesitation, Elena agreed. Within hours, she was aboard a military jet bound for the Sahara Desert, accompanied by a diverse group of specialists: linguists, engineers, medical personnel, and security officers. As the plane soared through the night sky, she gazed out the window at the stars, her mind racing with possibilities. What awaited them at the landing site? Would the Sentinels be willing to share their knowledge, or would they remain enigmatic and distant? When the team arrived at dawn, the scene was surreal. The Sentinel vessel rested gracefully in the sand, its surface gleaming like polished chrome. Around it, soldiers formed a perimeter, their weapons trained on the ship but held loosely, unsure whether hostility was warranted. Elena stepped forward, clutching a tablet loaded with data and translation algorithms. Her heart pounded as a hatch on the side of the ship opened, revealing two figures clad in familiar silver armor. One of the Sentinels emerged, raising a hand in what appeared to be a gesture of peace. Elena took a deep breath, steadying herself. This was it, the moment humanity officially met its protectors. Stepping closer, she raised her own hand in return, hoping her actions conveyed goodwill. "Welcome," she said softly, her voice steady despite the weight of the occasion. "We're ready to listen." The Sentinel tilted its head slightly as if studying her. The days following the Sentinel's desert encounter were a whirlwind for Dr. Elena Cruz and her team. The crystalline device she had been given became the focus of intense study, not just by scientists, but also by governments eager to understand its secrets. The crystal seemed alive, pulsing faintly with light and occasionally emitting soft hums that resonated in the air around it. When placed under microscopes or scanned with advanced equipment, it revealed intricate patterns, resembling neural pathways, almost as if it contained a form of artificial intelligence. Elena spent countless hours deciphering the data stored within the crystal. Each time she touched it, new images and sensations flooded her mind. She saw glimpses of distant galaxies, alien civilizations, and ancient battles fought among the stars. Most importantly, she began to understand the Sentinel's message more. Clearly, humanity was being tested. The crystal wasn't just a gift. It was a tool designed to prepare Earth for what lay ahead. A trial, as the Sentinels had called it. But what exactly did that mean? And how could an entire planet, divided by borders, languages, religions, and ideologies, come together to face such a monumental challenge? As news of the crystal spread, tensions rose across the globe. Some nations demanded immediate access to the artifact, accusing others of hoarding knowledge that could benefit all of humanity. Conspiracy theories multiplied, fueling distrust and paranoia. Protesters took to the streets, holding signs that read, "No to alien control," or "Protect our planet." Meanwhile, powerful corporations lobbied for ownership of the crystal, claiming they could unlock its potential faster than any government agency. The world teetered on the brink of chaos. Amidst this turmoil, Elena found herself thrust into the role of mediator. Her calm demeanor and scientific expertise made her a trusted figure, even among those who disagreed with her methods. She worked tirelessly to convince leaders from presidents to CEOs that cooperation was the only way forward. "We're stronger together," she argued during one heated meeting at the United Nations headquarters. "If we fight each other over this, we'll fail before we even begin." Her words struck a chord with some, but not everyone was willing to listen. A faction of military officials insisted on preparing for war, fearing the Sentinels might be planning an invasion. Others dismissed the entire event as a hoax, refusing to allocate resources towards something they couldn't see or fully comprehend. It was clear that uniting humanity wouldn't be easy, but Elena refused to give up. One breakthrough came unexpectedly when the crystal began broadcasting messages directly into people's minds. At first, these transmissions were sporadic and cryptic, causing confusion and panic. People reported hearing voices in their heads, describing scenarios of destruction and survival. In one particularly vivid vision, millions witnessed a simulated asteroid impact wiping out cities, followed by instructions on how to build underground shelters using sustainable materials. Another transmission showed humanity working side by side with alien species to terraform barren planets, suggesting a future where collaboration extended beyond Earth itself. These visions served as wake-up calls, forcing people to confront uncomfortable truths about their own fragility and interconnectedness. Slowly but surely, attitudes began to shift. Grassroots movements sprang up, urging communities to set aside differences and focus on solving real-world problems like climate change, poverty, and inequality. Artists created murals depicting humans standing shoulder to shoulder with aliens, while musicians composed songs celebrating unity and resilience. Even social media platforms, once rife with divisive rhetoric, transformed into spaces for sharing ideas and fostering dialogue. Despite these positive developments, challenges remained. Not everyone embraced the idea of global unity. In fact, some actively resisted it. Shadowy organizations emerged, determined to exploit the situation for personal gain. One such group, known only as the Veil, hacked into global communication networks, spreading misinformation and sowing discord. They claimed the Sentinels were manipulating humanity, turning people into puppets controlled by an alien agenda. Their propaganda gained traction among conspiracy theorists and extremist groups, leading to violent clashes in several countries. Elena faced mounting pressure from both allies and adversaries. Politicians questioned her loyalty, accusing her of withholding critical information from the public. Journalists hounded her day and night, demanding answers she didn't always have. Yet through it all, she remained steadfast, driven by the belief that humanity's survival depended on overcoming fear and mistrust. Her resolve was tested further when disaster struck during one of the Sentinels' trials. The aliens had sent coordinates to various locations around the world, instructing teams to solve complex puzzles designed to test creativity, teamwork, and problem-solving skills. These trials ranged from constructing self-sustaining ecosystems in harsh environments to decoding alien languages using limited resources. Success required collaboration between nations, disciplines, and cultures, a daunting task given Earth's fractured state. In one trial, teams from rival countries were tasked with building a massive energy grid capable of powering an entire city without relying on fossil fuels. Initially, progress was slow. Engineers bickered over designs, politicians argued over funding allocations, and ordinary citizens protested against perceived favoritism. Frustration boiled over when a key component failed due to sabotage by a rogue faction seeking to undermine the effort. The failure nearly disqualified Earth from the trial entirely. But then, something remarkable happened. Ordinary people stepped up. Farmers donated biofuel derived from waste crops. Students volunteered to monitor solar panels and wind turbines. Retired engineers offered innovative solutions that cut costs and improved efficiency. Together, they rebuilt the system in record time, proving that humanity's strength lay not in individual brilliance but in collective determination. When the final piece clicked into place, the sky above the test site shimmered, and a holographic projection of a sentinel appeared. Its voice echoed across the landscape. "You have demonstrated resilience and ingenuity. Continue to work together, and you will endure." Cheers erupted as tears streamed down faces. For the first time, many realized that unity wasn't just an ideal, it was a necessity. The trial had forced them to confront their flaws and embrace their shared humanity. Though far from perfect, they had taken a crucial step toward becoming a species worthy of standing alongside the stars. Back aboard the Zarnok flagship, Commander Vexithar watched these events unfold with growing unease. His initial plan, to feign ignorance and offer assistance, had fallen apart after the Sentinels exposed the Zarnok Empire's true intentions. Now, his fleet lingered in orbit, paralyzed by indecision. Attacking Earth outright was no longer an option, not with the Sentinels watching, but retreating empty-handed would be seen as weakness by his superiors. Desperation drove him to take drastic measures. He ordered his crew to intercept one of the trial broadcasts, hoping to manipulate the data to portray humanity as unstable and unworthy of protection. However, the attempt backfired spectacularly. Instead of incriminating evidence, the altered transmission revealed the Zarnok's deceit, earning universal condemnation from both humans and Sentinels alike. Humiliated and cornered, Vexthar made one last gamble. He dispatched a squad of elite operatives to Earth, disguised as humans, with orders to infiltrate the trials and sabotage humanity's efforts from within. If they succeeded, it would cast doubt on Earth's readiness to join the galactic community, and perhaps buy the Zarnoks enough time to regroup. Unbeknownst to Vexthar, however, the Sentinels anticipated his move. Hidden sensors detected the operatives moments after they landed, triggering an alert that reached Elena's team almost instantly. Realizing the stakes, Elena coordinated with international security forces to track down the spies before they could cause irreparable harm. The resulting operation played out like a high-stakes thriller. Agents raced against time to identify and neutralize the infiltrators, who proved cunning and resourceful. One operative managed to hack into a trial control center, planting false data that threatened to derail an entire project. Just as he prepared to execute his plan, Elena intervened, using insights gleaned from the crystal to predict his next move. "You can't win," she told him calmly, her voice steady despite the tension crackling in the air. "Your empire is built on fear and exploitation. Ours is built on hope and cooperation, that's why you'll lose." For a moment, the operative hesitated, his facade slipping to reveal genuine uncertainty. Then, with a resigned sigh, he deactivated the device and surrendered. It was a small victory, but it symbolized something greater: humanity's ability to overcome adversity through courage and compassion. By the end of the third trial, Earth had earned cautious approval from the Sentinels. While they acknowledged humanity's progress, they warned that the greatest challenges still lay ahead. "Unity is fragile," one Sentinel declared during a global broadcast. "Guard it well, for it will be tested again." As Elena stood beneath the Star Destroyers, gazing upward with a mixture of pride and humility. She knew the journey was far from over. Humanity had taken its first steps toward joining the galactic stage, but the road ahead, woe. The Sentinel's warnings echoed across the globe, a sobering reminder that humanity's trials were far from over. Though the world had made remarkable progress in uniting under a single banner, cracks still lingered beneath the surface. Old rivalries simmered, waiting for the right moment to boil over. Economic disparities widened as wealthier nations poured resources into trial preparations, while poorer ones struggled to keep up. And despite the inspiring displays of cooperation during earlier challenges, skepticism remained. Some feared the Sentinel's intentions, while others doubted humanity's ability to truly rise above its flaws. Elena Cruz found herself at the center of this fragile balancing act. As humanity's unofficial liaison with the Sentinels, she became both a symbol of hope and a target for criticism. Her days blurred into nights as she shuttled between meetings with world leaders, brainstorming sessions with scientists, and public appearances aimed at boosting morale. Yet no matter how hard she worked, there was always another crisis demanding her attention. One evening, after returning from yet another exhausting summit in Geneva, Elena received a message from Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Kane. "We've intercepted intelligence suggesting the Zarnoks are planning something big," he said grimly over a secure video call. "Their operatives may have failed last time, but they're not done trying." Elena frowned, gripping the edge of her desk. "What do you mean, something big?" Kane hesitated before replying. "We believe they're attempting to manipulate Earth's climate, a distraction tactic designed to destabilize global cooperation. If they succeed, it could undo everything we've accomplished so far." The news sent a chill down Elena's spine. Climate change was already one of humanity's greatest challenges. Adding an extraterrestrial twist would make it nearly impossible to manage. She immediately called an emergency meeting with key members of the Global Task Force, including environmental experts, military strategists, and representatives from vulnerable nations. Together, they devised a plan to monitor weather patterns closely and deploy countermeasures if anomalies appeared. But even as they prepared for the worst, strange things began happening around the world. Unseasonal storms battered coastlines. Drought-scorched fertile lands and wildfires raged uncontrollably in areas that had never experienced such devastation before. Scientists scrambled to determine whether these events were natural or artificially induced. Meanwhile, panic spread among populations already stretched thin by previous trials. In Africa, a village leader named Amina stood atop a hill overlooking her once thriving community, now reduced to ash and rubble. For weeks, relentless heat waves had turned fields into dust bowls, forcing families to abandon their homes in search of water. When aid arrived too late, desperation gave way to anger. "This is not our fault," Amina shouted during a live interview, broadcast worldwide. "If those aliens think they can destroy us like this, they're wrong. We will fight back." Her words resonated deeply, sparking protests across continents. People demanded answers and action. Governments responded by accelerating efforts to combat the crisis, pooling resources and expertise on an unprecedented scale. Desalination plants sprouted along coastlines, solar-powered irrigation systems revived parched farmlands, and reforestation projects brought life back to barren landscapes. It was messy, chaotic, and far from perfect, but it worked. Yet behind the scenes, tensions escalated between humanity's defenders and its adversaries. Commander Vexthar, desperate to salvage his mission, doubled down on his sabotage campaign. Using stolen technology, he orchestrated a series of cyber attacks targeting critical infrastructure, power grids, communication networks, and transportation hubs. Entire cities plunged into darkness, leaving millions stranded and terrified. Elena watched helplessly as chaos unfolded on multiple fronts. Just when it seemed the situation couldn't get worse, reports emerged of rogue militias seizing control of regions affected by the climate disasters. These groups claimed they were protecting their communities, but their actions often bordered on tyranny. Clashes erupted between local forces and international peacekeepers, further complicating an already volatile scenario. Amidst the turmoil, Elena received a cryptic transmission from the Sentinels. The message contained coordinates pointing to a remote location deep within Antarctica, a place untouched by human civilization. Accompanied by a small team of trusted allies, including Marcus Kane, she embarked on a perilous journey to uncover what awaited them there. After days of treacherous travel across frozen wastelands, they reached the designated site. What they found took their breath away. An ancient structure buried beneath layers of ice, glowing faintly with ethereal light. Its design bore similarities to the Star Destroyers, suggesting it belonged to the Sentinels, or perhaps their predecessors. As Elena approached cautiously, the crystal in her possession began vibrating intensely, emitting a soft hum that resonated with the structure. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a section of the ice collapsed, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside stood a lone sentinel, its silver armor gleaming despite the dim lighting. Without speaking, it extended a hand, gesturing for Elena to step forward. Heart pounding, she did as instructed, clutching the crystal tightly. As soon as she entered the chamber, visions flooded her mind once again. This time, however, they weren't fragmented or vague. They told a complete story. She saw the origins of the Sentinels, born from a coalition of civilizations united against a common enemy. She witnessed their triumphs and failures, their sacrifices and victories. Most importantly, she understood their purpose: to preserve balance in the galaxy, ensuring weaker species had a chance to evolve without being crushed by stronger ones. When the vision ended, the Sentinel spoke directly to her, its voice reverberating through the chamber. "You have proven yourselves capable of growth and resilience, but the final trial approaches, one that will test your resolve like never before." "What must we do?" Elena asked, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. "The Zarnoks seek to ignite conflict among you," the Sentinel replied. "They aim to exploit your divisions, turning you against each other. To overcome them, you must embrace unity fully, not just in words, but in deeds." With that, the Sentinel handed Elena a second artifact, a staff-like object pulsing with radiant energy. "Use this wisely. It holds the power to amplify your collective strength." Back on Earth, Elena wasted no time sharing the Sentinel's message with the global task force. The revelation galvanized humanity, inspiring renewed determination to confront the looming threat head-on. Plans were drawn up to expose the Zarnoks' manipulations and rally support for a unified response. Public awareness campaigns highlighted the dangers of division, emphasizing the importance of standing together in the face of adversity. Meanwhile, Commander Vexithar grew increasingly desperate. His attempts to destabilize Earth had failed, spectacularly, thanks largely to humanity's unexpected cohesion. Realizing he had little choice left, he decided to launch a direct assault on one of the Star Destroyers guarding the planet, a bold gamble intended to provoke the Sentinels into retaliating against humanity. On the day of the attack, skies darkened as Zarnok ships descended en masse toward their target. Civilians watched in horror as beams of energy lanced through the atmosphere, striking the towering Sentinel vessel hovering protectively above a major city. Explosions rocked the heavens, sending shockwaves rippling across the landscape below. Just as hope began to falter, Elena stepped onto a global stage holding the staff aloft. Its glow intensified, bathing her in radiant light as she addressed billions of people simultaneously. "This is our moment," she declared, her voice filled with conviction. "Together we will show the universe what it means to stand united." Her signal, coordinated effort sprang into action. Military forces launched counterattacks, disabling Zarnok vessels with precision strikes guided by real-time data provided by the crystal. Engineers activated experimental weapons powered by sustainable energy sources, neutralizing threats without causing collateral damage. Ordinary citizens formed volunteer brigades, aiding evacuations and providing medical care to those affected by the conflict. Through sheer determination and collaboration, humanity managed to repel the Zarnok fleet, forcing Vexthar to retreat. The victory came at a cost. Countless lives lost, cities scarred by battle. But it marked a turning point. For the first time, humanity had defended itself alongside its cosmic guardians, proving beyond doubt that it deserved a place among the stars. As the dust settled and skies cleared, the Sentinels appeared once more, their massive ships casting shadows over jubilant crowds gathered below. One figure stepped forward, addressing the assembled masses with a tone of solemn pride. "You have endured the trials and emerged stronger. From this day forth, you are no longer alone. Welcome to the Galactic Alliance." Cheers erupted around the world, tears streaming down faces as people embraced strangers and celebrated their shared triumph. Elena stood quietly amidst the festivities, gazing upward at the shimmering star destroyers. Though exhausted, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Humanity had taken its first steps into the cosmos, not as conquerors, but as equals. And somewhere deep in space, Commander Vexthar, the aftermath of the Zarnok attack left Earth scarred but not broken. Cities bore the marks of battle, crumbled buildings, charred landscapes, and streets littered with debris. But beneath the destruction lay a spirit of resilience that refused to be extinguished. The Sentinels' declaration of humanity's acceptance into the Galactic Alliance had ignited a fire within people around the world. For the first time in history, Earth stood united, not just as nations or ideologies, but as one species sharing a common destiny. Dr. Elena Cruz found herself at the heart of this new chapter. Her role as humanity's liaison with the Sentinels grew more complex and demanding, yet she embraced it with quiet determination. The staff gifted to her by the ancient Sentinel had become a symbol of hope. Its radiant glow featured prominently in news broadcasts and public gatherings. It was no longer just an artifact. It represented humanity's potential to rise above conflict and embrace unity. In the weeks following the battle, global efforts shifted toward rebuilding and recovery. Governments collaborated on massive infrastructure projects, pooling resources to restore damaged cities and provide aid to displaced populations. Scientists worked tirelessly to reverse the environmental damage caused by the Zarnok's climate manipulation, using technology shared by the Sentinels to heal ecosystems faster than ever thought possible. Farmers planted crops resistant to extreme weather, engineers designed sustainable energy grids, and architects rebuilt homes with materials stronger and more durable than before. But perhaps the most profound change occurred in the hearts and minds of ordinary people. The trials had forced humanity to confront its deepest fears and flaws, revealing both its vulnerabilities and strengths. People began to see themselves not as citizens of individual countries, but as members of a single planetary community. Acts of kindness became commonplace. Neighbors helping neighbors, strangers offering shelter to those in need, communities coming together to support one another. Even amidst hardship, there was a sense of purpose and connection that transcended borders. Elena witnessed these transformations firsthand during her travels. In Kenya, she met children planting trees alongside elders who taught them about sustainability. In Japan, she saw volunteers cleaning beaches while drones monitored marine life recovering from pollution. In Brazil, she joined a festival celebrating indigenous knowledge where traditional practices were being integrated with modern science to protect rainforests. Everywhere she went, she saw evidence of humanity's capacity for growth and renewal. However, not everyone welcomed this era of unity. Shadowy factions still resisted the changes, clinging to old prejudices and power structures. Some corporations opposed the shift toward sustainability, fearing losses in profit. Others spread misinformation, claiming the Sentinels sought to control humanity rather than uplift it. These voices remained loud but increasingly isolated as more people recognized their divisiveness for what it was, a relic of a fractured past. One such group, known as the Iron Veil, emerged as a particularly dangerous threat. Comprised of rogue operatives, disillusioned politicians, and wealthy industrialists, they plotted to sabotage Earth's integration into the Galactic Alliance. Their leader, a charismatic billionaire named Victor Lang, publicly denounced the Sentinels as tyrants seeking to impose alien values on humanity. Behind closed doors, he funded covert operations aimed at destabilizing global cooperation, Victor's schemes reached a tipping point when his agents infiltrated a key research facility housing advanced Sentinel technology. They planned to steal blueprints for constructing weapons capable of rivaling the Sentinel's Star Destroyers. If successful, they could spark an arms race among Earth's nations, undoing years of progress toward peace. Elena learned of the plot through intercepted communications and immediately alerted Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Kane. Together, they mobilized a team of elite operatives, including former soldiers, hackers, and scientists, to thwart the theft. The mission played out like a high-stakes thriller, with teams racing against time to secure the facility before Victor's agents could escape. Inside the lab, chaos reigned. Alarms blared as security forces clashed with intruders armed with cutting-edge weaponry. Sparks flew as computer terminals short-circuited under targeted EMP blasts. Amidst the pandemonium, Elena confronted Victor himself, who had arrived personally to oversee the operation. "You don't understand what you're doing," Victor sneered, clutching a data drive containing the stolen designs. "Humanity doesn't need guardians, it needs strength. Power. And at what cost?" Elena shot back, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "You think domination will bring freedom? Look around you. All this destruction, all this suffering, is that really the future you want?" For a moment, Victor hesitated, uncertainty flickering across his face. Then, with a defiant growl, he hurled the data drive toward a waiting drone programmed to transmit the information off-site. Before it could activate, however, Marcus tackled Victor to the ground, pinning him down as reinforcements stormed in. With the threat neutralized, Elena retrieved the data drive and destroyed it, ensuring its secrets would never fall into the wrong hands. As authorities led Victor away in handcuffs, she turned to address the assembled team. "This isn't just about stopping one man," she said firmly. "It's about proving that we can handle responsibility, that we're ready to join the stars. Not because someone gave us permission, but because we earned it." Word of the foiled plot spread quickly, further solidifying humanity's resolve. Leaders from every corner of the globe gathered for a historic summit aboard the flagship Aegis Prime, hosted by the Sentinels themselves. Representatives from nations large and small sat side by side with grassroots activists, scientists, artists, and everyday citizens chosen randomly to ensure diverse perspectives. Never before had such a broad coalition convened to shape the course of human history. During the summit, the Sentinels addressed the assembly, their voices resonating. "With authority and wisdom, your journey has only begun," one declared. "The galaxy is vast and filled with wonders and dangers you cannot yet imagine. But know this, you are not alone. You have allies willing to stand beside you, guide you, and fight for you. All we ask is that you continue to strive for unity, compassion, and understanding." Elena delivered a powerful speech on behalf of humanity, her words echoing throughout the chamber. "We've made mistakes and will make more in the future. But we've also shown that we can learn, adapt, and grow. We're imperfect, yes. But isn't that what makes us human? Our ability to dream, to hope, to believe in something better. That's our strength. And with your help, we'll carry that strength into the stars." Her words brought tears to many eyes, earning a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. When the applause finally subsided, the Sentinels presented Earth with a formal invitation to join the Galactic Alliance. It wasn't a reward or a gift. It was recognition of humanity's hard-won achievements. As the summit concluded, Elena stood on the observation deck of Aegis Prime, gazing out at the cosmos stretching endlessly beyond the windows. Beside her stood Calderin, the junior Sentinel officer who had guided her through countless challenges over the months. Though vastly different in biology and culture, the two had formed an unspoken bond rooted in mutual respect and shared purpose. "What happens now?" Elena asked softly, breaking the silence. Calderin tilted his head, his visor reflecting the light of distant stars. "Now, you begin anew. The path ahead won't be easy, but it will be yours to forge. Remember, courage and cooperation will always triumph over fear and division." Elena nodded, feeling a surge of determination. Humanity's journey into the galaxy wouldn't be without obstacles. She knew that better than anyone. But for the first time, she felt confident that Earth was ready to face whatever came next. Back on the planet below, celebrations erupted in every corner of the globe. Fireworks lit up night skies, music filled the air, and people danced in the streets, embracing one another as equals. Children looked upward, dreaming of adventures among the stars, while adults marveled at how far they'd come in such a short time. In the end, humanity hadn't been saved by superior weapons or advanced technology. It had been saved by acts of kindness, moments of courage, and the unwavering belief that even the smallest gestures could change the course of history. From Sarah's sandwich to Elena's leadership, each step had mattered, a reminder that greatness often begins with simplicity. And so, Earth stepped boldly into the cosmos, guided by the promise of a brighter future. The age of isolation was over. A new dawn had begun, one where humanity stood shoulder to shoulder with the stars, ready to write its own story among the heavens.